Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Your Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Preacher. I'm going to start this off by saying I'm going into this series knowing absolutely, or not absolutely wouldn't be the right word, but like I'm going in 95% blind. I remember a little while back I skimmed over like the Wikipedia article. I recently, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went back over it or something. I remember only reading like 2 or 3 lines from the Wikipedia, just getting a gist of what it's about. And, basically what I read, Jesse, a preacher, gets possessed by a creature known as Genesis. That's like half angel, half demon. And supposedly, based on the Wikipedia article, was saying it was essentially more powerful than God. So, because that was kind of something people had brought up, like the fact is, because I read, that Wikipedia article, like I said, skimmed over it prior to me watching the trailer, like when the original trailer came out a while back, and because a lot of people are like, yeah, that doesn't look anything like the show, because I kept thinking in the back of my mind, I was like, something was definitely different. I was like, oh yeah, that was it, because like from what I was reading from the article, it seemed like the series was more of a supernatural element to it, but I really didn't get any of that from the trailer. But then, more recently, I was like, okay, never mind. Especially when I watched the show, I was like, okay, never mind. They definitely kept it there, because they were talking, because it's made by, I forgot the other dude, but it's Seth Rogen, and he was talking about the fact that he was going to stay as true to the comic book as he could. And like I said, whether or not this is it's true to the comic book, that had to be up to someone else who's read it. But nevertheless, I really enjoyed it. The main focus of this episode was basically introducing us to, one can only assume, our 3 main protagonists, being Jesse, Cassidy, and Tulip. Which obviously Tulip has a much longer name, but I'm just going to call her Tulip from now on. Which it's just, I like these characters, each with their own, like, for instance, like Jesse, like, the fact is he's a shitty preacher. Like, he was up there just kind of like, during his sermon, he actually had to, like, have pages, like, kind of look like it was like, stuff from the Bible, like, printed out, and he was missing a page, so he didn't know where to go. And it's just like, literally everyone in the, like in his congregation are just kind of like, not saying anything, just like, not into it at all, just like, man, you suck, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, another side to it is the fact is that Jesse's actually a badass. Like, that freaking bar fight scene, that kind of took me by surprise. I was like, holy crap, Jesse, I thought you were a man of the cloth. I thought you were just, a very passive person. I mean, there were obviously things here and there that kind of hinted that he's not a passive person. For instance, we find out a little bit, like, from the sheriff that apparently he has kind of a checkered past, because a lot of people in town were a little worried about you coming back. He's like, even I felt a little uneasy about you coming back. And he's like, because everyone was kind of worried, because they were like, yeah, you've been a little too quiet since you came back to town. But me personally, I'm fine with you being too quiet. Let's kind of keep things that way. But what really showed you, like, Jesse's not, that something a little different about Jesse, is the fact is when he was talking to that boy, and the boy's talking about, yeah, my mom's being abused by my dad, and he's like, now what do you want me to do? Because if I do it, I'm gonna fight your dad. Yeah, but your dad's kind of a decent size, so it don't look like he's going to go down in a couple punches. So it's going, not just one punch, it's going to take a few punches, and then he's going to want to fight back, and on top of that, his friends are going to join in, and just basically saying violence begets more violence, and it's like, do you want me to do that? So it looked like he was trying to rationalize, they tell a kid, like, okay, I'm not going to go that far. And it seems like it wasn't just for the kid, it was for himself, because he didn't want to go that far. But I mean, obviously he did later on in the episode when he, like, kicked their asses. I was like, wow, for a preacher, he knows how to kick some ass. But it does seem like he only became a preacher because he wanted, I'm interpreting it as either he's trying to make up for his own past, or kind of fill in his shoes for his dad, is kind of what Tulip was actually saying. It does seem like that. We don't really get a full picture of what it is that his dad was involved in, but whatever it was got him killed. And it's basically like, he made a promise to his dad to be on a good path, but it seems like he hasn't always done that in the past, since, his connection with Tulip, which we still don't get a giant scope of what that is, but hopefully we get a little bit more of that. But it's also like, seeing him trying to, like, keep that promise, But like I said, he definitely didn't keep it during that bar scene. I like that, though. The sheriff is like, okay, you can stop now. He's like, it's almost done, and broke his arm, because he was like, you're going to hear a sound. And the guy's like, what? He's like, it sounds something like a bunny trapped in a that's stuck in a trap, and that sound is going to be coming from you. And it's just like he made that sound when he broke his arm. I just wasn't expecting it to get that brutal. I mean, prior to that, the episode was already brutal, but it's just like bone breaking brutal to the point you actually see the bone come out. Which I do find very interesting is the fact that him, his wife, and his son are there at the church, like what was it, like literally like 3 days after that. So it's like I find it a little funny that you end up showing up at that particular church after, like, you know, after he kicked your ass like that. I just found that fascinating. But that is kind of an interesting, you know, aspect to him. It's just like he tries to keep faith, but, you know, he kind of, you know, especially with Tulips returning to town, well, I mean, returning into his life specifically, and it's just kind of like he's trying to find that balance of, you know, trying to be a different man, you know, trying to keep that promise to his dad, but also finding himself falling back into old habits and kind of losing faith and just kind of being, because it when you look at it, it just don't even seem like he even believes the stuff he says. You know, like, he even says to the kid, like, you know, like about talking to, you know, when the kid walked away earlier, he was kind of like, no one's listening. So it's like, it doesn't even seem like he even believes in some of the stuff he says. I mean, it seems like by the end of the episode, he's trying to, though, you know, because he wants to be better. He wants to, quote unquote, save everyone. So that was kind of interesting. And once again, like, you know, bringing up the whole him and Tulip thing. Because Tulip had brought up in the episode, like, oh, there was, you know, you have to fight for love. Which, you know, prior to that, I just love that whole car scene. And then showing up, like, she ended up killing that guy with the corn because she just, I guess, she dashed it down his throat and he died that way. Nevertheless, I mean, granted, all that after she, like, bit his ear off. And then those kids were there, and that little girl's like, oh, I'm 10 years old, so I'm in charge. You can't be just driving all around like you want to and then killing people. That's not right. It's like, for a 10-year-old, you were handling this pretty well because she wasn't off screaming and everything. And it's just, they actually sat there and had fun with her. They helped her make a homemade bazooka, which was pretty badass. Granted, we didn't get to see how the whole thing went down. We heard some explosions, some gunfire. I mean, when he came out, the freaking helicopter was shot down and just shrapnel. But I love that little girl because she was like so impressed. She's like, oh my God, I just found my new role model in life. So that was kind of neat. That was, like I said, each of the characters had very amazing introductions in those regards. Like I said, to me, Jesse's introduction was amazing just because, like, I wasn't expecting him to be a shitty preacher. I was like, oh yeah, he's going to be a decent or good preacher. It's just what I was thinking. It's like, no, literally no one in the congregation paid him any attention, which I loved. I turned into a little kid when I saw that sign when he first came up. It's basically like, what was it? Give Jesus, it was like, give your ass and holes to Jesus or something like that. I giggled like a little kid. I was like, I probably shouldn't find that as funny as I do, but I'm sorry, I'm a little kid. But also Cassidy too, because, you know, Cassidy's just a little bit of a funny dude, and just because he holds a special place in my heart because he Joseph Gilgun, I think that's his name, the actor who plays Cassidy. Just because it's like, I said the first time I saw him in the trailer, I was like, fucking Rudy from Misfits, dude, that's so awesome. As well as the actress, I cannot. I feel so crappy not knowing her name. It's like her name's Ruth, isn't it? Is it Ruth Nega? That might be her. I saw the name and it looked familiar. That might be her. I'm not sure. She was Raina from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and also she was on, not apparently, she definitely was because I do remember her, but she was on Misfits as well. She was, I forgot what her power was. Basically, she was Curtis's girlfriend. I remember, I think she was a girl that Nathan shit on her bed in like season 2. But I think she was Curtis's girlfriend in season 2, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be completely remembering that wrong. Basically, she ended up getting a transplant, and she gained the ability of, was it teleportation or flight? I think it was teleportation, right? I think that was it, because the guy who had the teleporting power, he ended up dying, and she ended up getting his heart. I think that's what it was. Nevertheless, I know I'm going like way overboard, but just something I had to point out. It's just the moment I saw their faces and just like was reading about the people that were in the show. So those two particular people stuck out to me. But like Cassie's a bit of a funny man. Like I didn't understand when I saw him like looking at those like those Bibles and just like all those writing over it and the way he was looking. And then he's like, so how did you guys track me? You know, it's like, oh, obviously we're going the wrong way. It's like, so how did you guys track me down? And then all of them start pulling out weapons and he started kicking some serious ass. I was like, wow. And that was kind of like our first like really bloody battle. And I was like, wow, this show is intense, dude. That's pretty awesome. And then just like I said, I don't know much about this series. I can only assume just by the way he was, when he bit into the dude's neck, had blood all over himself, as well as like how he, which I liked, like he had thrown like that broken bottle at the dude and it had stabbed him, and basically he had leaned him forward and blood was pouring out of the like top of the bottle into another bottle we had prepared. So I can only assume he's a vampire or something in this specific universe that's similar to a vampire. I don't really know. There was that point later on, like near the end of the episode, where he was holding his hand out into the sunlight and it caught on fire. So, like I said, I can only assume he's like a vampire, but maybe it's just something in this specific universe that's close to the mythology of a vampire, something like that. I did love the fact is when he jumped out the plane, I was like, okay, okay, he'll hit the ground and obviously he's not going to die, especially because he didn't bother equipping himself with a parachute. But I was like, okay, he's going to land on the ground, probably like, survive the impact. I thought he was probably going to do something a little interesting, like end up like floating to the ground with the umbrella. I mean, I can only assume that's why he brought it, but obviously the umbrella was ripped to shit. And then like it took a direction I wasn't expecting. It's the fact is I guess if you want to be realistic about it, like your body would explode from such high impact. Was it like 50,000 feet or 30,000 feet up in the air or something like that? So, scientifically speaking, your body would explode from such an impact, and literally the bottom half of his body was gone. His guts, he's in this giant crater, his guts are everywhere. So I can only assume he was able to recover by killing that, eating that cow. So that was very interesting. So, I mean, it's just like, it makes you want to like, I mean, obviously he's running. Like, I don't know if this is like a cliche storyline, but I like it. It doesn't come up, at least in some of the stuff I've seen, it doesn't come up that often. But obviously you can tell he's probably running from some religious organization because they're like, oh, you're trying to use holy water on him or something, like, oh, you're an abomination and stuff like that. I do like that for some reason, like in storylines when that pops up. It's like, oh yeah, you're a monster and we're churchgoers, we're believers, and you are not. You are abominations in the eyes of God. So we, as his loyal servants, must rid you from this world. Like the only other thing I can remember, like that comes to my mind when I think about a similar storyline like that is the Almighty Johnsons kind of was similar like that. It wasn't a very consistent storyline. It was kind of like it only popped up in like a few episodes at most, but it's basically like religious nuts. They can, the people who are like, who are the incarnations of gods are kind of monsters pretending, shining blasphemy in the name of the one true God. Kind of similar situation. I know I keep, bringing random shows into this review. I mean, not review, just me talking about, it should be focusing on Preacher, but it's just like, I know there's certain things that kept in my mind. Probably hands down my favorite line of this episode was probably from Cassie, where he was talking to Jesse. He's like, what kind of preacher are you? And he's just basically like, well, at least you're not one of those preachers that was walking around with children's asshole on your finger. And I couldn't help but laugh. I was like, oh, but but I love the way he phrased it like that. That was nice. It does make you wonder. It does seem like he's going to be sticking around, both him and Tulip, which was very interesting. And also, isn't that lady that Jesse is talking to the one that has all those children? That's the mayor, right? I did hear that right, because I think I was like, oh, she's the mayor, right? And then she basically just like around like, oh, you should keep yourself available because it sounds like maybe her husband died or something like that, or I doubt she's divorced. Probably like her husband died or something like that. She's like, no, I'm keeping myself available. I mean, not too available. I guess she's like, she kind of paused, so I'm guessing like she meant like too available, like, like I'm not like making myself like so available that I'll sleep and bang every dude that comes across or something like that. And the way she was looking at Jesse and the way she was reacting when he told her he was going to quit and that he's basically going to leave. I can obviously, like, I can only assume, but I mean, it's a pretty good assumption that she totally likes Jesse, but he's completely oblivious to it. I mean, I love the fact is after that whole situation when he was talking about leaving, and it's just like, yeah, like, I'm not going to feel bad about you leaving, you were never here, meaning like he was always kind of like 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door kind of situation about being back home. And then just like her kids are passing around the tablet, be like, Mom, she grabs the tablet and smashes it to pieces and then throws it back in there and says share. It's like, wow. Just because you've got your mixed up feelings, you want to take it on your children like that? Fucking nice. But, yeah, one thing obviously, like, I really liked, to me, one of the best parts was the intro, just because it's like that preacher in Africa, being possessed by that thing, and then just being like, "Oh, I'm the messenger" or something like that. I saw as the camera zoom out, I was like, "Okay, something's about to happen to me." I assumed like, "Oh yeah, something's going to land on him." It's like, nope, pop, he explodes. I was like, was not expecting that. Everyone in the church was covered in blood and just like, and I did like that it periodically happened throughout the episode. I can only assume it's just kind of, I kind of, pretty much pieced it together. I was like, okay, that's Genesis probably trying to find a decent host that can sustain him. And apparently you see it in the TV during the bar scene. Apparently Tom Cruise got killed, which I don't know if that's something from the comic book, but I feel like that's got to be something they just added on, because I doubt the comic book will get specific like that. But it's just like, I thought that's kind of interesting. Yeah, Tom Cruise is dead. He exploded. I was like, wow. I don't think Tom Cruise is going to appreciate that joke, but I did. I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, wow. I was like, well, he is technically a religious leader, so I guess to add some legitimacy behind it, it's like, yeah, we're bringing this into the real world somewhat. But yeah, it's just I'm very interested to see like more about these, learn more about these characters. To see more about like Tulip and Jesse's past, because Tulip is very like, apparently she's doing a job. It's like, obviously Jesse's done some stuff in the past, but it's like what that was specifically, I don't know. Like she's there doing a job, and she got that map from the guy that she killed with the corn. But it's like, what does that like? Is it like part of like were they bank robbers back in the day or something like that, or just robbers in general, thieves? Seem pretty skilled no matter what. And I forgot if I talked about this. No, I think I brought it up, but I don't remember if I talked about it. But the fact is, Tulip talked about the fact is that she was going to yeah, I think I talked about it. That when you're someone you're in love with is selfish and just kind of leaves you behind, you have to track it down. And she's basically going to track down the person she loves and gobble them up. Is that supposed to be Jesse? I interpreted it as that, but it's like when her and Jesse were talking, she was like, "Yeah, I know we hate each other, and that makes this work." I mean, it's like Jesse's kind of like, "I don't hate you, Tulip, even if I tried." So maybe he's the one. I don't know. And is Tulip normal? Because I from what I can see, it seems like she's 100%. I mean, normal in regards of being human. I don't think she's necessarily just a normal person, obviously. I did like the fact is that it's kind of it's just kind of a nitpicky thing. Not nitpicky, it's just something I thought was kind of interesting that I noticed. Like in the beginning when you see, we had, like I said, it's not named, but it's obviously because I know that little bit about the story. That thing, obviously, that hits Jesse at the end, the thing that's been passing around all these different preachers throughout the episode has been Genesis. In the beginning, it seemed like it was just like a ball of like elusive energy, like hitting people. But like at the end, when it comes into the church to Jesse, it actually looks like it has a form that you just can't see. Like maybe like the human eyes or, mind can't perceive it. But basically, it was walking forward and it was kind of pushing stuff aside. So it was just kind of like you can actually legitimately see like a humanoid like silhouette amongst it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Because like I said, I don't even know what Genesis actually looks like. Does it ever actually really have, like, if you are familiar with Preacher, do let me know in the comic books, does it actually have a physical form, or is it always just kind of existing within Jesse? And is it one of those things, because I was kind of wondering if this was going to pop up. It hasn't yet, so maybe it will later on, or maybe that's not a thing at all. Genesis exists within Jesse, so does that mean we're going to have moments where it's kind of like, oh, like, you hear Jesse kind of talking to himself, like there's a voice, but it's only inside of Jesse's head, so he's talking to it. Does it like actually have a personality and everything? Is it not just a being that he ends up drawing upon its power, or is it just like, I feel like it's a sentient being that just, it has a mind, and obviously it has a mind of its own, but it like can talk and just act on its own. So I'm just curious about how that whole sharing that body situation is going to work. And we did get a little taste of its power, because apparently he has a very persuasive power that he used on his own, that guy. And I can, like, the moment he said, like, and open your heart to her, I was like, please don't tell me he's going to do that literally. He means it literally, because he went to his mom, told her that truth, stabbed himself in the chest, and cut out his own heart. I was just like, ooh. So that means from now on, Jesse's going to have to watch what he says. But essentially, I find it a little, like, I think the ending is meant to be a little ironic. He's talking about the fact is that I'm here to save you. I haven't been the best preacher, not the preacher that you guys deserve, and I'm going to change that. I'm going to save you all. So, yeah. Like I said, very interesting series. I hope we get a little bit more about, whatever the hell Cassidy is. And, like, apparently he has an ally because he called them when he was in a bar. They didn't, he's like, I need funds, but they hung up on him. So, I mean, that's one reason why he's sticking around town. But it's like, I don't know. Like, I'd like to find out more about what Cassidy, about, like, I don't know. Maybe it's not 100% just religious fanatics that are chasing after him. And then just the whole, like, Jesse and Tulip thing, like, their past, like, what was it that's so bad in Jesse's past that he's kind of trying to, essentially running away from? And it's like, what was that whole situation with his dad? And what was it that got his dad killed way back when? So, like I said, very interesting series, and I honestly cannot wait to watch more of it. I am really intrigued by this series. So, some really good characters, some very interesting, because not even just like the main characters, even like the side characters we've been introduced to so far seem very interesting, especially the guy who ended up cutting open his chest, just like his kind of like basically always being under the thumb of his mom, just like basically like anything he says or does is never good enough for his mom, that basically he's like, my mom wants me to feel bad about smelling bad or something like that. Like, so I don't know. The mayor that obviously has a thing for Jesse, but Jesse's oblivious to it. So it's just like, it'd be kind of interesting to see, especially when the episode ended too. It's like, oh, that thing is here. So I don't know whether they were referring to Cassidy or whether they were referring to the thing that's in Jesse. Genesis. I don't know why I said it like that. Genesis. That sounded so menacing for some reason. So like I said, very curious to see where the series goes. So. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, full of life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.